Hey everyone, welcome to Reddit Readout. Today we are checking out malicious compliance. Story 1. Customer does not want to approve expense report for going less than 1% over when taking a client to dinner. Okay then. Apologies for not being very succinct. Not great in this part, but TLDR at the end if you want. So I was on an off-site short-term, not really short, project. Coming from one of the cheapest to live countries in Europe and staying for months in Singapore, project location, I had found some places that I could be eating for pretty cheap and the food was good and within my taste palette. We were getting, let's say a random number, $60 per day for food expenses, but I was spending somewhere around $25–30 on average, with the highest ever getting to just under $50. Short project going long, drawn over 10 months. By the point of the story, customer's client is raising a ton of issues, 70% of them not really an issue. Discussed this a few times with some guys in my company and a manager told me to take the client out for a dinner and some drinks. He would confirm the extra expense, just be careful to not go too much overboard on the expense. Specifically asked what that means and he told me try to not go over $200–$250. We go out and neither me nor the client really drink much, so we end up having some food and a drink each. The guys at the restaurant know me well by that point and almost always do some rounding on the bill or bring something extra to the table on the house, and with them bringing plenty finger food I end up with a bill of $60.68, number adjusted to the random number above. But yes, about 70 cents above the daily limit. Way below the 200 plus allowance for that. End of month I send the report in and put a special note for that day/night. Expense report goes through my company with no problems, but the customer, our company's customer, flags that receipt up as not acceptable and not to be covered. They put me in direct communication with customer and explain. Nope. Not accepted, not covered. Talk again with my company and tell them the situation and that manager X advised me to do so, as well as mentioned he would confirm, but unfortunately the guy is out sick, COVID and flu, and not to return for at least 2 weeks. The customer must have this settled by the 15th of the month and he wants to hear specifically from the manager that I was advised to act in such a way and approved by that manager for him to cover it. This is getting crazy and out of hand, so my boss, owner of our company, just covers it from his side. The full $60.68, not just the 68 cents. Customer says no receipt that goes over the $60 limit will be approved. Unfortunately for me, the customer is local to Singapore and he randomly drops in at the job site. And I get to see him the day after the resolution above and all. Story 2. You know how it's done right then. So, about 15 or so years ago, I was working in a little metal working firm. 2 brothers owned, 30 or so workers, metal casting, further processing up to including wires and other things. Bad explanation is bad. We had about 5 women working in production, me, my mum, and 3 others. One of them was the unofficial sweetheart of one of our bosses. Karen, changing name for privacy, couldn't do wrong. Whatever went wrong, wasn't her fault, ever. I had a run-in with her a few times already and it wasn't the best, but I'm more of the silent type, let others do what they want, I'll do my thing, etc. Us women were mostly there for preparing the product for sending out. Washing metal bits, grinding back seams, sorting small things into good and broken/not fully cast, etc. I've been working there summers in the 90s, with my gran as unofficial supervisor, and she showed me the ropes. Later when I worked there full-time I knew the ins and outs of thing, and some tricks gran worked out along the way. Especially with our washing machines. Imagine them as a big bowl, filled with specially formed stones, add water and cleaning agent, the metal bits, and it would vibrate and the stones rubbing against the product with soap and water would clean the product from residual oil and other things. One of the machines required a more special touch apart from throw in, start, done. I've been working there long enough and been shown by Gran and Mum how to set up that machine. It polished the metal on top of cleaning it with tiny spherical metal bits, never cared enough to ask what they were made of, it was enough to know how to use it to make things shine. So, one day I get a call, boss asking if I was washing something at the moment and what I was working on. I told him no, done with washing, I was just now drilling the last holes and preparing the product for shipping out. He said he'd send Karen down with something time sensitive and that was that. Karen comes down an hour later, crate with time sensitive products has been there for a while, and it's coated with oil, soot, and all things nasty, ready to be cleaned and polished in that special machine. I ask if she needs help or some pointers, since I know that machine is a bit complicated to set up right. She looks at me, dirty and sweaty as I was from actually working, and she was nearly pristine from doing whatever she did with the boss, don't care, keep me out of it, and sniffs. Tells me she knows how to wash them and disappears in the washroom. Well then, if you know. A colleague comes over and asks if she ever used that machine and I shrug and tell him, not that I know of. She wasn't very popular there, can you tell? I go back to work, time goes by, lunch, more time, and then our boss shows up, product needs to be sent out today. Not long after there's a shout for me to come to the washroom. Turns out Karen doesn't know how to use the machine. The whole thing is oily, black, and nasty, product looks worse than before. She used the wrong cleaning agent, didn't add the polishing powder at the right time and pretty much fucked the whole thing up. Boss asks me why I didn't say something, help her, intervened, anything. Well, she said she knew what to do, ask colleague he was there. Door to the washroom is closed and I have other things to do than to stick my nose where it's not wanted. Do I know how to deal with this problem? Sure. Machine and stones need cleaning, product needs cleaning, it's gonna take a while. In the end, Karen was allowed to finish my dirty work and I spent the rest of the day cleaning up her mess. I wasn't allowed to leave the washroom, boss's orders. So I started a washing cycle with the right agent and no product in to clean the machine and stones, sat down and did nothing. Then added the product, more cleaning agent and powder after the oily gunk was gone, and pretty much spent half a day doing close to nothing while Karen had to do my work. I could have helped her, but us unwashed peasants were not good enough for Her Highness. Story 3. Manager wished he hadn't made me come in when I was ill. So I used to work as a waiter, and anyone who was/is a waiter knows that when you call in ill, they never believe you. They always think you're pulling a sickie. Anyway, one day I'm throwing up loads throughout the night, so have to call in sick at 10 a.m. that morning. 10 a.m. comes, I'm feeling awful, I call up and my manager answers. He starts calling me a liar, saying I'm screwing him over, questioning me about what I ate, and then when I said I hadn't eaten any chicken, he said I must be lying because why else would I be sick? Anyway, long story short, he threatens to make my job hell if I don't come in. So fuck it. I went in. We were hosting a big table event and my manager and I were out front presenting the food to the table. It was a fancy restaurant. I have to leave halfway through as I feel ill, and my manager, when he comes to the back, forced me to see him in the office. I said I needed to stay by the toilet but he said no. I had to come. So fuck it. I went. He sits me down and starts giving me a bollocking. After about a minute, my nausea gets really bad. I lean over and throw up all over him. He looks horrified. I get sent home. Story 4. Get the doctor's referral to receive vertical mouse sure thing HR. I'm not an English native speaker, so my apologies for any mistakes. I worked for a large multinational company some years back in the logistics industry and I did a lot of my work on the computer. Due to that I developed a small infection in some small joint in my wrist due to using the normal mouse provided by IT. I asked my boss if I could order a vertical mouse to relieve the pain in my wrist and I was thinking company would provide it. My boss referred me to our local HR, from hell. Manager of the HR was called, behind her back, Grim Reaper, and she surely lived up to the nickname. Got a message from HR that the only way to get another kind of mouse is to go through company-mandated healthcare provider and to get a referral from there. Thought it was stupid because vertical mouses costs like 20 to 50 and going to healthcare would surely add costs to that. But let's do what the HR tells you, since they know better, and obviously don't care about money. I'll add the costs of everything to prove my point. Cue malicious compliance and made the reservation to meet our doctor, 200. She ordered some x-rays, 300, and send me to get instructions and training exercises from company's dedicated physiotherapist, 3*100e. Went back to the doctor on a separate meeting, another 200e, and she forwarded me to some hand surgeon, 450e, for another opinion. Hand surgeon was kind enough to inject some cortisone, 100, to my aching wrist and gave me 1 day sick leave, 300e, to recuperate from the injection. Spent that fishing and enjoying the nice summer weather. After going through all the hoops to get the referral for the mouse, it took HR about 2 months to instruct IT to deliver me the mouse. The cortisone actually helped and I didn't have any use for the vertical mouse, otherwise I would have ordered it myself. I just used the 2 months to remind my boss about the mouse on regular basis and asked him to contact HR about it. It took close to 2,000 to go through HR mandated route to get the relatively cheap mouse. But hey, everything has to be done by the book, right? Here's the kicker, immediately after I received the mouse, I gave my 2 weeks notice. My resignation and the mouse were totally unrelated, but I sure made HR and my boss to think that it was all about the mouse. I was one of the most valued employees in our company, so me leaving sure did sting them a bit. It never fails to amaze me how stupid big corporations are when it comes to providing employees with necessary tools to ease their job. Story 5. Followed the teacher's instructions. This happened decades ago when I was in school. I just remembered it for some reason and figured I would share. It's pretty tame compared to most of the stories on here. I was in middle school and all of us kids were being noisy kids talking between classes. A teacher who had the next class started teaching but the kids would not stop chatting. So our teacher turned around and said whoever wants to talk to each other can go out in the hallway and talk. Cue malicious compliance. Everyone looked at each other for 2 seconds contemplating this choice. 2 to 3 people walked out at first, and that was how the avalanche started. Almost everyone, 80% of the class at least, went out into the hallway and started chatting loudly until the headmaster came out to see why there were loud kids in the hallway when they were supposed to be in classes. This was one of the rare moments when the jocks and nerds and everyone else stuck together and they all told the headmaster word for word what the teacher had said. The headmaster marched us all back in class silently, had a quick chat with the teacher for a minute, just hushed whispers, and pretty much nothing got covered in the lesson that day due to all the commotion. Be careful what you wish for. That's all for today. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.